It's the final race of the European season, and the last stop is at the Citadel of Speed, Monza, just outside of Milan for the Italian Grand Prix. Hello there, we have had a very wet start to race day here as Ferrari come home primed for a celebration. The drivers and constructors titles are already in the bag. Now Ferrari need to confirm Rubens Barrichello as runner-up to complete the perfect season. But a couple of warning shots are fired in the build-up to the Grand Prix. As all the teams test at Monza, Michael Schumacher's left flat out after crashing with a tyre problem at the 220-mile-an-hour pit straight. He says he's fine, but it's the 15th major accident in the 35-year-old's F1 career. Then, in pre-qualifying, Juan Pablo Montoya shatters the Monza record. He's the first man ever in the 119s. That's an incredible average speed of close to 163 miles an hour in the BMW Williams, the fastest single lap ever. In qualifying proper, the Ferraris run 9th and 10th. Barrichello is always strong here, on the podium for the last 3 years and the winner in 2002. He's very close to the limit. The Brazilian feels it's his best ever lap of Monza. Michael Schumacher's quickest through the first sector, but slow in the last after an uncharacteristic error at Parabolica. He's off the front row as he chases a record 5th victory round the Royal Park. The record-breaking Colombian Montoya goes last. This time he pushes too hard and makes mistakes. But 120.6 is still good enough for second place, but he's a full half a second slower than Barrichello. So we have an all-South American front row leading that charge to the first corner. Then the 7-times world champion and the lightning starter Alonso. Sato out-qualifies Button. Then Spa winner Raikkonen. Pitsonia qualifying 8th on his 24th birthday. Trulli's got a miserable record at his home race. Coulthard, the winner here in 97, makes the top 10. Webber's Jaguar in a Toyota Sandwich. Panis, F1's elder statesman at 38, is stepping down at the end of the season. Then Klein, Fisichella and Massa in the Saubers. It's a home race for Pantano and Bruni. Poor Baumgartner, he was taken out in Spa by Jenson Button and by Pantano's Jordan in Saturday practice here. It's 53 laps of Monza, the quickest circuit of them all. Here's the best of the Italian Grand Prix with Martin Brundle and James Allen.
That's Nick Heidfeld. He had to qualify yesterday in the spare car, but he switched back to his original race car, which is why he's starting with the pits. And Coulthard, top of your screens, David Coulthard has dived into the pits to put on slick tyres and presumably change his refuelling as well. The rest of the field coming round to form up on the grid. Can't see anybody else having dived into the pits. Coulthard rolling the dice then. Starting 10th place originally, David Coulthard. There you can see the gap on the grid where he was.
Some problem, apparently there's some problem fueling the car there of David Coulthard. No, they're not allowed to fuel it until the race is started, of course.
Absolutely. Okay, the anticipation builds, the excitement builds. Turn up the volume sound and enjoy as we go racing! Brilliant start by Barrichello. Look at Alonso fighting with Montoya. Montoya's left, Alonso in the middle. Alonso cuts out Schumacher. He's well and truly past a very cautious, you'd have to say, Juan Pablo Montoya. Schumacher down to 4th. Everybody's being very cautious. Schumacher has gained a position there, undoubtedly, in the chicane. He'll have to give that back to Montoya or face a penalty. Meanwhile, Raikkonen is on the attack. Schumacher is being very, very careful, and he lets those two cars go through. So Montoya jumps up, Raikkonen jumps up as well. And who's the next person that's going to be attacking Michael Schumacher? It's going to be the two BARs of Sato and Button.
And this is where the Bridgestones struggle, even after a safety car, as we saw in Spa, as Button crosses and makes a place in the chicane. Schumacher spins. Michael Schumacher spins. There's a Williams visit in the background there as well. Carnage then at the second chicane. They were super cautious into the first one and not quite enough of caution into the second chicane. Alonso leads the Grand Prix as Pitsonia recovers through the gravel trap.
Well, the computer's still showing Barrichello in the lead as the two BARs are side by side there going down towards Ascari. We're looking at Alonso there with Montoya behind him. Schumacher has definitely spun. Jenson Button is a man on the move. Look at him attacking teammate Takuma Sato. There is Rubens Barrichello taking advantage in the early stages of the slippery conditions on those intermediate tyres. He leads the Grand Prix at Monza. Alonso 2nd, Montoya 3rd, Raikkonen 4th, Sato 5th, Michael Schumacher shown a 6 on the computer, but he seemed to be lower down as Olivier Panis retiring from the Grand Prix. He's had a terrible weekend with gearbox and engine problems, but his race only lasts one lap, and there you can see the top 8, and what a tremendous start by Felipe Massa, 16th on the grid. He is now up into 6th place.
Well, Ruben, sorry I said Alonso was in the lead. Of course, Barrichello's way out front there, but by 7 whole seconds. Michael Schumacher back in 15th place. So Barrichello at the moment romping away.
Here's the start again.
And then Michael Schumacher then super cautious. Look, he's now back into 4th place. Alonso on the attack. It's Barrichello with the best tyres at this stage. He's got the confidence to go in. Look, doing pedestrian speed. Schumacher jumps across the second chicane, gained a place, but gave it back to Montoya immediately. On board with the Renault then. And one day he's going to be popped up in the air, flying in the sky, because he's always pulling that stunt on the at the start of the Grand Prix because of the brilliant characteristics of that car away from the line. But it works out yet again for Alonso. And this then is Schumacher spinning out, and I think others then in sympathy following suit. Michael Schumacher is down in 14th place as we speak, as Montoya on a very strange line compromises himself, gets it out of shape, and Button takes him as if it's candy from a baby. And Montoya, I don't know why he was going so defensive into that corner. Button was nowhere near overtaking him.
No, he certainly wasn't going to try it, was he? He was quite a long way back. You can see it was still quite slippery all the way through that section. That's the section which will take the longest to dry out here this afternoon. Montoya lost momentum then through the Lesmo bends, and you can see that Raikkonen, who managed to keep his average speed up, is now right behind Montoya, who is building back up to speed. Teammates next year, of course, within McLaren, and has Raikkonen got the momentum to get past Montoya in the run down to Parabolica? Doesn't look like it.
Okay, Barrichello led by 6.6 seconds. So far on this current lap, he's 2.1 seconds slower, and over the line they go. It's nearly 4 seconds by the end of the lap. Alonso took 4 seconds out of him, and no wonder he'll be past him on this lap. And Barrichello then, it hasn't worked. He hasn't got in to a sensible pit stop winner. Don't think he's out of the equation altogether today, but that seriously made his afternoon difficult.
Going to cost him 26 seconds to come in the pits and get back out again. He will return probably somewhere around Gianmaria Bruni in 11th place. So both Ferraris will be out of the points in the early stages of the Grand Prix, and a lot of work to do from here for the team which clinched the Constructors' Championship and the Drivers' Championship recently, and for whom this weekend was supposed to be a celebration party. At the moment, the man in the pound seats is Alonso. Button looks also very aggressive, 5 seconds behind the Frenchman, behind the Spaniard, as he comes up now to grab the lead off Rubens Barrichello. We cut away to look at the battle between, here we go, Alonso then for the lead in the Renault. It's candy from a baby, straight through into Ascari. Rubens Barrichello has to give way, and he will have to come into the pits, because that is the lead well and truly gone.
Yeah, it's like trying to nail jelly to the wall when you're driving on tyres that have gone off. The rubber, the heat is generated by the rubber moving around. As soon as those tread blocks start moving, you're struggling. This is Coulthard fighting with Michael Schumacher for 13th place, and it cut away just at the juicy bit. So I'll keep an eye on that one. We don't know how that ended up. Alonso does now lead the Grand Prix.
Ted Kravitz has news for us.
Rubens Barrichello comes into the pits. Those intermediate tyres are so worn down. He puts on the dries. He's about 6 laps too soon for his first stop. There he goes. What's the time on that? 6.9. That's not a bad stop, but he is seriously compromised. David Coulthard, while you're down there, might well have a problem at his next stop with his fuel flap. He couldn't open it when he was refueling in the pits.
And Michael Schumacher then moves up past Fisichella into 10th place. Interestingly, Rubens Barrichello, despite the stop, despite the blistered intermediate tyres, now back out and in front of Michael Schumacher. So damage limitation was done there by the Ferrari team. Barrichello compromised but still in play.
Yeah, but of course he's taken fuel on, so he's going to go much deeper into the Grand Prix than Michael Schumacher, who has yet to come in and take on the first fuel load of the afternoon. So Barrichello, you'd have to say, looking very strong indeed. Your heart goes out to Felipe Massa, who's done a stunning job in the early part of the Grand Prix. Got his nose knocked off. Here he is in the pits to change it, and all that good work undone. Massa pitting from 18th. And well, he's got a lot of work to do. Meanwhile, that's a replay of his teammate Fisichella being overtaken for 10th place by Michael Schumacher.
Yes, just nicely out of the slipstream. Got the faster car, probably better stability under braking.
The race leader pits then on lap 11, Fernando Alonso. So Jenson Button leads the Italian Grand Prix at Monza in the BAR Honda with Juan Montoya right behind him, who has just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. He has closed to within half a second of Jenson Button. There he is. That's what half a second looks like at almost 200 miles an hour as Button comes down to the Variante Roger. The Roger chicane, the second chicane on this lap, and a real dogfight here in prospect between Jenson Button, Juan Montoya, and just behind them, Kimi Räikkönen.
Michael Schumacher does a 21.9. That's a 10th off the lap record in race conditions. That's how grippy and dry it is out there now, as Mark Webber pits from what was 5th place.
And that means that this is the perfect moment in this Grand Prix to be making a pit stop. The track has definitely come to fully now to the dry tyres. They're absolutely flying. And, well, this is the moment to be doing it. So everybody that took the gamble on the dries at the start, that gamble has paid off handsomely for Button, for Montoya, for Räikkönen and Sato, and particularly for those Michelin runners.
Okay, that'll be Massa then passing somebody. That's Sato running extremely wide, didn't gain any time on that, but Baumgartner was penalised by 1 second in qualifying for using that easy apex in turn 2 there. A crank of wing change. We don't know if it's up or down on the Jaguar. Probably down, I would imagine, if to go back to drier conditions. And Ted is down there.
McLaren with a serious problem for Kimi Räikkönen. Steve Hallam, his engineer, is looking very worried. Here he comes into the pits. They've cleared a space for him in the garage. Oh, what a shame. Kimi Räikkönen in to retire. A lot of smoke coming out of the back of that car. Oh, a lot of smoke coming out of there. I wonder if that's heat, but the mechanics ready with fire extinguishers for the back of that engine. But another disappointing after the joy of Belgium. A terrible weekend for Kimi Räikkönen.
The 8th retirement from 15 Grand Prix for Kimi Räikkönen. And, well, we know what that little momentary anger that Mark Arnold, his trainer, talked about in the build-up programme. He'll certainly be feeling that now as Pitsonia battles with Rubens Barrichello, takes the position. He's, of course, still yet to make a pit stop. The car very light. Rubens Barrichello full of fuel. Zonta into the pits there from 10th place in the Toyota.
So what's pivotal here, I think, Michael Schumacher's the fastest man on the track, but he's 27.4 seconds behind Jenson Button. Neither of them have stopped yet. Michael Schumacher had the spin, then he didn't have enough grip, although he's fastest man now. So Button and Montoya have a full pit stop in their pocket. So the Ferrari team have got a big job to do this afternoon if they're going to win this Grand Prix. Button pits from the lead at the end of lap 15.
Yep, Jenson Button comes into the pits. We're not seeing him. We're looking at the pit stop of Zolt Baumgartner. There is Jenson Button. And obviously that will drop him down. We'll be interested to see where he comes out. Be very close to this scrap here, I would fancy. Montoya takes the lead then on lap 15 from Sato. Räikkönen has retired from the Grand Prix. We're not watching Jenson Button stop, but we'll see him where he emerges. There he is, just in front of this ding-dong then, between Alonso and Michael Schumacher. That's Button, that's Michael Schumacher, takes the place from Fernando Alonso. Schumacher then up into 2nd place, because Montoya has been in the pits as well.
So pivotal there for Jenson Button. He managed, as we said, he got a pit stop in his pocket, he just got back out in front. So the big question now is how much further can Michael Schumacher go in this race? And it does rather tell a story of yesterday's qualifying, doesn't it? Michael Schumacher then has gone a long way into this race before needing fuel.
Certainly has. We speculated he might have been carrying fuel. We did see him make a mistake in the Parabolica, those of you watching with us, but fuel clearly part of the reason why Michael was slow. Button then has a heavy car, just had a pit stop, new tyres as well. Michael Schumacher in the sweet spot, the car is light, a stop is imminent, the tyres are well worn in. He's got to try and pass Jenson Button. He wants to attack and make as much space up as he can. Will he go for the lead, or is he going to make his pit stop? Is Ross Brawn going to bring him in, knowing that passing Button might be quite tricky in the current conditions? Button driving absolutely beautifully here this afternoon, and we've got lap traffic, both the Minardis there to get around.
And critically, Schumacher just makes it on the entry to Parabolica past the lap traffic. And will he pit this time? Will he peel off right? Yes, indeed he does. So steaming then into the pit lane.
And Louise is with Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, Kimi, a fiery end to the Grand Prix. Big disappointment for our featured team.
Yeah, we had some problem with the engine, so I needed to stop.
What were the conditions like out there beforehand? How quickly did it dry out?
We're still a little bit wet, but it was okay.
Thanks, Kimi.
Kimi giving the team quite a lashing in the press, or reported to be anyway, for lack of reliability, and he'll be leaving the track another unhappy man.
So Michael Schumacher comes out behind Mark Webber there, you can see in the Jaguar, and Webber was in 10th place, so that puts Schumacher back 10th in this Grand Prix, around about 26 seconds behind the race leader Jenson Button at this stage of the Grand Prix. So Button at the front, Alonso, Montoya, Michael Schumacher has been into the pits as well. Fast and furious stuff here at Monza. Lap 18 of the 53-lap Italian Grand Prix. We've got, what, 3 guys who could win this Grand Prix this afternoon. Jenson Button going like a train at the front. He is 3 seconds in front of Fernando Alonso. Juan Montoya is in 3rd place. He's 1.7 seconds behind. And Rubens Barrichello, he could still win this Grand Prix as well. And Ferrari, he is 4th, 3.4 seconds behind Juan Montoya. Then it's Giancarlo Fisichella in the Sauber, who's had a terrific start to the Grand Prix, but has yet to make his first pit stop. He's the only man yet to make a stop. And Takuma Sato is in 6th place in the BAR. David Coulthard 7th, Mark Webber 8th, ahead of Michael Schumacher, who's right up behind the Jaguar driver at the moment. But critically, Martin, Michael Schumacher 28.5 seconds behind race leader Jenson Button, and he's on an identical strategy, it seems.
Yes, you'd have to say it's a question of how far Michael can get up the pack today rather than can he win the race. I think there are 4 drivers in this actually. Button, Alonso, Montoya and Barrichello currently lapping around the same pace, 7.5 seconds adrift, the 4 of them. Fisichella's just behind in 5th but has yet to stop, so is a little bit out of sequence. Sato's 6th, going quite well but needs to pick up his pace if he wants to join and make it 5 potential winners, but still only 10.9 seconds, and that is Michael Schumacher trying to get up the inside of Mark Webber into the first Lesmo. Webber having absolutely none of it, and Michael Schumacher then his relentless pursuit of the leading pack. Remember, he spun on the first lap, didn't have enough grip on the dry tyres on a damp track and really struggled, lost a lot of pace. Now he's coming back, but has been held up behind Webber's Jaguar, and Webber just driving the wheels off that thing. Good stuff.
Certainly is. Certainly the first Lesmo, not a place you see many people trying to attempt an overtaking manoeuvre. A lot of people thinking, having won his 7th World Championship, Schumacher might not be taking too many risks this afternoon, but they don't know Michael Schumacher very well if they suggest that. There's Fisichella then, from 6th place in the Sauber, last of the contenders to make a pit stop. 8.4 for him, back out on track. This lap 20 out of the 53 laps here at Monza this afternoon, and really exciting start to the Grand Prix. We had rain this morning, a drying track, certainly damp in some places. This was one of the places, the first chicane, as Michael Schumacher now with acceleration of that Ferrari engine superior to the Jaguar. This is coming down to the area of the Curva Grande then, and into the second chicane. Now
Webber's got to stay left. He's got to make Michael go the long way round, and then parks it right in the middle of the racetrack. Nice stuff, but jumps across the chicane. Michael will get a good run out of there, and surely he'll now take the place. Webber just too busy watching Schumacher and braked a touch too late. He had the corner covered, and he really did the job twice and then lost out. And of course, just behind him is Pitzonia. That's for position 2. So this is 8th, 9th and 10th. Coulthard is 7th. He pitted at the end of the warm-up lap. We don't know how much fuel he put on the car. And will he go for a long run this afternoon and get the McLaren well into the points? We'll see where Fisichella fed back into the system as well. And there we go then. That is Webber having covered the bases on the way in, slow on the way out of the second chicane. And Michael Schumacher actually puts his hand up and says, thanks, I don't think Mark Webber intended to let him through.
Jenson Button then leading by 1.4. Montoya is second behind him, Barrichello as well. They're all on the same sort of pace at the moment, but well, you'd have to say that nothing much to choose between them. David Coulthard, a man well worth watching as well. He's on a completely different strategy from the rest of them. He's in 6th place at the moment, 14 seconds behind the race leader, and he's on a one-stop strategy here this afternoon, which could be very interesting. Michael Schumacher 11 seconds behind Coulthard, making no real impression into him. That last lap, half a second, but generally speaking, it's been about 11 seconds for the last few laps. So really intriguing stuff here at Monza.
Yes, all the key runners have got to stop one more time. Coulthard, for his first time in race conditions, he stopped at the end of the warm-up lap, took a penalty really effectively off the line. And but we've got 4 different chassis and engine combinations in the top 4, 2 different tyre manufacturers, and then nip and tuck on lap times. They're weaving around a little bit. Sometimes it's Button, then it's Alonso that's fastest. 4 seconds between the pair of them, the four of them, sorry. Sato managing to keep himself in touch, and Coulthard's got the gap down to 14.9 seconds now, and lapping faster than just about all of them. So he has got a chance of coming up into sort of the podium zone. Be a struggle to win it though from where he's at, but going very quickly. Coulthard pits then for his first stop of the afternoon.
Yep, this is it then. David Coulthard comes in from 6th place. Where will this drop him back to? There's a battle going on between Fisichella and Webber. Will he be anywhere near them as he comes out? Don't forget, he's taking a lot of fuel on here to take him right to the finish of the race. A long stop, 12 seconds.
Yes, and now of course he's got a very heavy car. He'll be heavier at this point in the Grand Prix than any of the other runners on 2 stock. So that'll slow him down, and probably 2-3 seconds longer taking the fuel on board. He needs a good clear run out of the pits. Clean coming up behind him. Can Coulthard keep in front of him? Because that'll be crucial for him while his car's fat and while he gets back up to speed. It looks as if he did that. So Coulthard now got to drive for his life if he wants to score some solid points this afternoon.
Well, it's so close at the front here, with just a second between Button and Alonso, 1.5 between Button and Montoya, and just 3 seconds between Button and Barrichello in 4th place. It is definitely going to come down to who can go the furthest on the fuel, and you'd have to say Jenson Button, his first stop was on lap 14. That was a lap after Montoya's and 4 laps after Fernando Alonso. So we're not sure exactly how much fuel they all took on board. That's going to be absolutely crucial as to who comes in first and therefore who gets track position through the pit stops. Barrichello in.
He did, and Button in the 1:22s and faster than Alonso on that lap that we're watching. Barrichello in the pits for his second scheduled stop, and that's quite early really, isn't it? I thought it would be nearer sort of 32, 34 before we'd see Barrichello. Of course, remembering, correcting myself really, because he had to pit very early last time round because of he had the wrong tyres on for the track conditions.
As the Minardi guys, Italy's second team, getting ready for one of their 2 drivers.
Still only 2 retirements, James. Raikkonen engine problems, Panis spinning off on the first lap. So good reliability again this afternoon on what is traditionally a tough old place on engines and brakes in particular.
Whoa, huge fire in the pits for Gianmaria Bruni. He was running in last place, and very quickly they get the fuel out. There was a spillage there from the fuel nozzle. It looks like they're going to try and get more fuel into it. That's something for these guys to think about. Their fuel stop is coming up next. They want to get him back out onto the racetrack. That was a flash fire, very quickly dealt with by the Minardi mechanics, and a bit of a debate going on about whether they're going to continue. The answer is no. Steering wheel comes out. That was pretty serious stuff down at the Minardi garage.
Yes, I don't think Bruni fancies it. I think he's I'm not going to go back out in that, and I didn't see how much of the flames got into the cockpit, but Bruni then not at all keen to rejoin the team. We're ready to fire it up and send him, but I think he took quite a bit of that heat.
Here's another look at that fire. It's very interesting. Didn't even look as though the fuel hose was attached at that point, did it?
They did actually carry on and refuel it and get ready to fire him up, but the driver said, I've had enough. Louise is down there as we see Alonso and Montoya pit from 2nd and 3rd place. Let's just hang on to this, because this is a and Sato too out of 4th. So it's a mechanics race then. There's Sato taken to his garage. He's further down the pit lane. Who's going to get away first? They should all need the same amount of fuel to get to the end of the race. Alonso out first, then Montoya, and Sato yet to leave the garage. He does so now.
Well, that's very interesting. They go out then in the order in which they came in. There goes Pitsonia. He was in 7th place before the pit stop, so that's where they're filtering back in. Meanwhile, fastest man on the racetrack, aware that the racers are having this. There's Pitsonia. Alonso trying to get past him. Schumacher's aware of what's going on in front of him. He's just set a lap of 1:21.535. He's got down now to within 17 seconds of Jenson Button, and he knows he can try and capitalise now as these guys, Montoya, Alonso and Sato, have made their stops.
Now, importantly there, Alonso has cleared and then got it all wrong. He's got to stay in front of Pitsonia, and he knows it, because Pitsonia can interrupt his race. Button will be delighted to see that, because Alonso then, he made it past Pitsonia, but then Pizzoni came back at him, and that will compromise his pace. An important part of the Grand Prix, with Montoya just behind him. Zonta pits in the Toyota, and Louise is still waiting to talk to us.
Yeah, poor Gianmarco Bruni, very nasty incident. He's lying down on the floor in the Minardi garage, obviously in some but coughing a lot. He's obviously ingested either some fuel or some fumes from the fuel or the fire extinguisher, but he's got doctors with him, he's got physios with him, so I'll give you an update on his progress as soon as I can.
There we go, Jenson Button has a pit stop. That's the crucial one. It all went so well for BAR. Where does he come out?
Well, he's cruising down the pit lane at the moment. You can see there's the other front runners, and that moment when Pizzoni got out in front of Alonso. There he is. There is Alonso. There is Montoya. Button is back safely in front of the pair of them. Michael Schumacher is also in front of them. He is 11 seconds behind, he was 11 seconds behind Jenson Button before those stops, so there is Michael Schumacher now, showing as being in the lead. He has still to make his second stop of the afternoon. He was 11 seconds behind Button beforehand. He's not going to be able to make that up in a pit stop. However many laps of fuel he's got in the car now, it's going to certainly be interesting, these next few laps for him. He's going to be absolutely flying to try and close that margin down, get himself as far up the race as he possibly can. But with an 11-second margin that Button had over him before his second stop, you'd have to say that Button looks safe at the moment from the onslaught of Michael Schumacher. Well,
as Ron Dennis said, Michael Schumacher needs a great race, and we've seen a lot of those. He is flying. I think he's about to set a new lap record if he doesn't pit at the end of this lap. Schumacher absolutely on it. There's his teammate Barrichello, and that tells you Michael's ahead of him on the track, but with another stop to do, as we see Button then passing traffic, and Pizzoni is in between, and Pizzoni's got to stop, as does Michael Schumacher again this afternoon. Schumacher does a 1:21.3. It is a new lap record by half a second as Pizzoni makes his second stop. The red flashing light in the distance is somebody who's forgotten to switch off their rain light, and Schumacher through Curva Grande then, he's leading the race by, let's see, 15 seconds over Barrichello and Button. And of course, that what do we think he needs? 25 seconds for a stop. We got a Jordan in the gravel trap.
Yeah, it's going to be, well, as I said, it was 11 seconds Button had on Michael Schumacher before Button stopped. There you can see Giorgio Pantano retiring that Jordan from 16th place. It's hard to see, unless Michael Schumacher's got several laps of fuel in this car, how he can possibly take the time out of Jenson Button. But Rubens Barrichello, well, he pitted on lap 5 for just over 6 seconds as we look at some wing being put into that car of Antonio Pizzoni. And Barrichello pitted again on lap 29, again for 6 seconds. So I think Barrichello's going to have to stop again, isn't he? Ferrari are ready in the pit lane for one of their two drivers. Michael Schumacher absolutely scorching around this racetrack at the moment. Which one of the two drivers is going to come in? Jenson Button is in third place. He'll grab second then, as Michael Schumacher comes into the pits.
Ringing it out down to the speed limit line. If he goes over that too fast, car number 15 already has a penalty. That's clean in the Jaguar for speeding in the pit lane, almost certainly, because you can't get it. You're coming off this track straight into the pit lane. You're doing best part of 200 miles an hour in this supreme machine. You have to get it down to just 100 kilometers per hour, and it just feels like you're dragging an old ferry boat home then when it's on its rev limiter, its pit lane limiter. Michael feeds out back then into the BARs.
Yeah, it's Sato. He's behind Sato, crucially, because Jenson Button, who's Michael Schumacher, they are side by side with Takuma Sato, and Sato has to give up the place. He had a bad drive out of the first chicane. Jenson Button's gone through already, so has Fernando Alonso, but Takuma Sato couldn't quite make it, and Michael Schumacher critically has got out in front of Button's teammate.
And that is crucial too, because remember, Sato was hauling himself up into the equation, so surely Michael Schumacher's done the same. Supreme laps, very, very fast, good pit stop. Michael with a fast car underneath him. Well, we better add his name to the list of potential winners now, James.
Yeah, it's growing all the time. 17 laps to go here. We've got lap traffic, we've got overtaking at the front and at the back. It's all going up at Monza, and Ted's got news for us.
Down at BAR, they're absolutely gutted about that because they needed Takuma Sato to help Jenson Button win this race. They were going to try and do that at USA this year. It's perfectly legal, but it hasn't happened. Bad luck, Taku.
And let's take a look at Michael Schumacher's laps then as he gets back up to speed after the stop. Tremendous confidence and grip he's got, hasn't he? Out of the pit lane, look at the advantage he's got over Sato already. Michael Schumacher absolutely flying. He did a 1:45, including his pit stop. That's 2 to 3 seconds faster than the bulk of them have been doing. So Schumacher just eating into their advantage.
Well, I don't know if he's going to win this race, but it's certainly one of his best drives. Michael Schumacher, having spun it in the early stages, is really putting on a fight back here at Monza. Fisichella pits then from 7th place. As we take our breath, at the moment, Rubens Barrichello is leading on lap 38 by 12 seconds from Jenson Button in the BAR. But we believe Barrichello, well, we're sure Barrichello has to stop again. Jenson Button then is in 2nd place. Alonso is 3rd, 1.5 seconds behind Jenson Button, with Michael Schumacher just 6 seconds behind Fernando Alonso. So in other words, well, the gap was 11 seconds between Button and Schumacher before that second round of pit stops. It's now down to 7 seconds. 3 of them came from a faster out lap. Obviously, some of it came from an in lap, but a lot of it came from those laps up to Schumacher's stop. Absolutely stunning driving here by Michael Schumacher. And, well, it's certainly put him into the equation. Sato is down to 5th. Montoya, who was in the top 3 for most of the first half of this Grand Prix, now drops into 6th place. Fisichella we've seen just making a pit stop. And what about David Coulthard here, you say? He's on a one-stopper. How's he playing out? Well, he's 36 seconds behind the race leader, just 22 behind Jenson Button, and lapping, well, his pace dropping off a little bit in comparison with the front runners at the moment, but still he's in the hunt for some good points here this afternoon. It's really a huge, huge test here for Jenson Button. He's got a car which we can see simply isn't fast enough really to win the race here this afternoon. No discredit to BAR, they've done a sensational job this year to move themselves forward up the grid. He challenged Michael Schumacher at Imola. He's had strong points finishes everywhere this season, 3rd in the World Championship, but you can see the car just not able to just do the lap time that Jenson Button wants from it. Meanwhile, Alonso in the Renault, we've seen real pace from them sometimes this year. He's currently lapping about 6 or 7 tenths a lap faster than Jenson Button, and Michael Schumacher, well, he's in a different planet. His last lap a 1:21.9 compared to Jenson's 1:23.9. 2 seconds a lap faster than Jenson at this stage of the Grand Prix, and if he can keep that going, then Schumacher will be right there very, very soon.
Well, we're heading for a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment, because Button and Alonso are toast with Michael Schumacher's pace and their relative lack of pace at this stage now. And we're on lap 40, and Michael Schumacher then comfortably ahead of Sato and just creaming into Button and Alonso. It's just a question of how quickly Barrichello can get down the road and take a splash and dash towards the end of the race if he needs to. Alonso spun out of 2nd place, stuck in the gravel. If he gets assistance, he will be penalised. They will not, well, no, he'll be judged as being in a dangerous place there, I think. And they're saying switch it off, and he's saying no, you push me. He's going to keep, that's it. Engine is off then. I think he would have got away with that, as I say, in a dangerous position. And he's lost it on the way into the 2nd chicane. Highly unusual there for Alonso. And out, I believe, just as we cut away, yes, he switched off the engine, got out of the car.
He's not happy. He wanted a push. He's in a dangerous place, undoubtedly, like Michael Schumacher at the Nürburgring last year. Whoa! A Spanish kick of the right boot. A Real Madrid-style hoof. And he is very, very angry that the marshals wouldn't push him back into the race, because he would have been allowed to get away with it if they had. He obviously didn't fancy it, and I wonder why. We're in Italy, the Ferraris was bearing down on him. I wonder if that's got any bearing on it. Certainly he's very cross indeed.
This is a question of which Ferrari is going to win this afternoon now. Can Barrichello get out as a very short stop in front of Michael Schumacher to win this Grand Prix? Or will Schumacher beat him down? He's got to sit on the limiter. Where's Schumacher? He'll be coming around in the background, surely. He's tucked up behind traffic. That's good news for Barrichello.
He's tucked up behind Jenson Button, and he comes side by side down the main straight with Jenson Button. Michael Schumacher takes what would have been the lead, but it was not, because Rubens Barrichello managed to get out in front of the pair of them. Christian Klein sees trouble coming up behind him in the mirrors and gets well and truly out of it into the 1st chicane. Pretty smart move by Klein, because Button and Schumacher were side by side down the straight, and Rubens Barrichello has done enough in this race to stay in front of Michael Schumacher, no matter how hard Schumacher had tried. He knew that Barrichello was in the pits. As he went for Button down the main straight, he thought it might have been for the lead. Schumacher absolutely on the ragged edge here. He's after his teammate Barrichello. There are no team orders in Formula One, and although he's had tremendous support from Barrichello, it's hard to imagine after a drive like today. You look again at Schumacher going down the inside of Button. It's hard to imagine Schumacher not wanting to win here at Monza, just handing the victory to Barrichello.
Interesting tactics from Clean. He just got out of the way and went down the escape road. Clean pass for Michael Schumacher. Now the track is coming back. It's not as green as it was after the overnight rain. The Ferraris are just so much faster than anybody else. They've just got this relentless pace that Button and Alonso, before he spun up, did not have an answer to. That's why it's a Ferrari 1-2, plus an astounding drive from Michael Schumacher. But Barrichello then, surely they will not let Michael Schumacher cruise up and attack him at this stage of the Grand Prix. This is the scrap of the race now. Coulthard and Pizzoni are going for it, hammer and tongs, both of them looking for strong drives in 2005. Both of them driven very well today. Different strategies, different problems that have faced them. They're just 10 seconds adrift of Montoya in 5th place. So it's a Ferrari 1-2, a BAR Honda 3-4, Montoya 5th. And, well, will it be a 5-6 for Williams if Pizzoni can get past Coulthard? Coulthard doesn't look like he's going to give that away any time soon.
Both drivers looking for a seat in 2005, both contenders for all the available seats at the moment going into next year. So all of this is a shop window for the pair of them. Job Baumgartner, he has been lapped twice and he is down in 15th place. We've had quite a few retirements. Alonso, Pantano, Bruni. We had a huge pit fire with Gianmaria Bruni earlier on. Kimi Raikkonen engine failure. Olivier Panis also stopped early on in the Grand Prix. The early stages, well, we've had rain all morning here at Monza. We had a damp track, but only in certain parts. The first part of the lap was damp, the rest of it was dry. Most of the front runners opted to go on the dry tyres from the grid, except Rubens Barrichello. It was the wrong choice for Barrichello. He made an early getaway, but then soon was swallowed up. Had to make an early pit stop on lap 5. That cost him. Meanwhile, Michael Schumacher, who'd started on slick tyres, spun at the second chicane and dropped down into 15th place on the first lap.
Point scorers at the moment: Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, Button 3rd, Sauber 4th, Montoya 5th, Coulthard just 7 seconds behind Montoya now in 6th, with Pizzoni 0.6 behind Coulthard 7th, and Fisichella another solid drive in 8th, scoring the final point at the moment.
And crucially, Jenson Button, a very, very strong performance for him this afternoon. He's just 9 seconds behind race leader Rubens Barrichello, heading for his personal 8th podium of the season. But crucially, with teammate Takuma Sato tucked up right behind him, likely to score 5 points this afternoon, and neither of the Renaults are in the points here this afternoon. This is going to move the BAR Honda team up into 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship. What an extraordinary achievement for them as we look at, a big tangle there between Pizzoni and David Coulthard.
Right, so broken bodywork there on Coulthard's car. Be amazing if he hasn't got broken suspension too. That looked, we only saw the end of it, but it looked rather adventurous, didn't it? Pizzoni coming in quite late there. Hopefully we'll see a replay. Is Coulthard still going? He's still recording sector times out there, so it looks like the answer is yes. There's a squabble to watch as the Ferrari team move then up onto the pit wall. Coulthard's gone through the 2nd sector ahead of Pizzoni, so he did manage to stay on track. Good solid suspension there on the back of Coulthard's car.
Certainly was. 2nd race in succession that Coulthard has had an incident-filled closing stages. Remember, Spa hit Clean, had a puncture. Everything that could happen to David Coulthard in the closing stages there. Here again, he's been rammed from the back by Antonio Pizzoni. They're 6th and 7th. And, well, they've got just one more lap to go. The Ferraris at the front. This was meant to be a celebration party for that historic 14th Constructors' title. And, well, the 7th Drivers' Championship for Michael Schumacher. And it's been just that. After they kept their public and their fans on the edge of their seats in the early stages of the Grand Prix. But then the pace of the Ferraris this season, simply too much through the Grand Prix. And they managed to grab 1 and 2.
A cracking race. Monza's not always the most exciting, isn't it? Unless you do get a bit of inclement weather. But this one has just been full on. We had 4 cars look like they could win it, then it turned into 5, and we weren't including Michael Schumacher at that point, but we were including Barrichello,
who crosses the line to win his first Grand Prix of the season. Michael Schumacher goes across to salute the Ferrari mechanics. That is the first win since Suzuka last year for Rubens Barrichello, and it tastes so sweet. Jenson Button is absolutely delighted from the looks of things. Either that or he's out of fuel. No, he's delighted.
Well, they spin, they start on the wrong tyres, but still it is Forza Ferrari. The prancing horse rules at Monza. What an excellent race. We'll be hearing from the drivers. There is Tony Jardine's verdict and Jenson Button talking about a great day for BAR. Hello there, welcome back from the paddock at Monza, where Ferrari have delivered for their fans after a dire start at the Italian Grand Prix. Barrichello the winner, the 24th Schumacher Barrichello 1-2, just the 5th in that order though. Button on the podium, only the 2nd time he's finished here. Then Sato, what a fine drive from the Japanese charger. Montoya, he slipped back to 5th. Coulthard 6th with that very individual strategy. He was last at one stage. Pizzonia 7th for the 3rd time. Fisichella, well, he almost always scores at home. Barrichello though, Mr. Consistency this season, he is a winner at last.
All in all, it was such a good feeling after the 3rd stop when I was asking where I am, where am I, and then they say, you come down, you're P1. I say, whoa, unbelievable.
After 5 laps we had a disaster on our hands, and I was thinking that we'd score some points and maybe a podium if we were lucky. But the team is so strong, and the car was fantastic, the tyres were fantastic, and Rubens and Michael just got stuck in, and I'm speechless.
We did a fabulous job to get the cars back in 1-2 after all this casino in the first lap, and with Rubens's early stop for tyres. It wasn't easy to come back in that position. It's because we worked very well here, we tested, we prepared very well our car, and thanks to that we were able to win.
In the damp conditions it's always tough to find your feet and really figure out where the wet patches are, and I think I did that well, coming up from 7th to 3rd. So yeah, I was pretty chuffed for the first stint.
You led for a while, but those Ferraris just too strong for you in the end. Was that always going to be the case?
Well, I didn't know that they were close until I looked in my mirror and I saw Michael coming up, and they're in a league of their own. I mean, it's just staggering the speed that Michael had when he came past me. I just could not believe it.
We came here with the objective of putting some points on Renault and getting up to, or closing the gap to 2nd in the championship. Obviously 11 points, and them not scoring has done the job for us, so fantastic.
A tricky moment towards the end of the race there with Pizzonia.
Yeah, that was inevitable. I wish I could have talked to you, because from about 10 laps out, you know, I could have said he's going to try something silly at some point. These cars have got one line under braking, and unless you've slipstreamed by someone in a straight line, you can't outbrake them. And checked in the braking, he was still in position, did my braking, and then when the impact came, to be honest, I was ready for it. It's just, you know, trying to make something out of nothing. It's a bit silly.
And so Barrichello now needs just 3 more points to clinch that runners-up spot. Button virtually nailed on for 3rd. Alonso all set to overtake Trulli. Looks like 6th for Montoya. And Coulthard a bit nearer the unfortunate Kimi Räikkönen. What a big change, though, in the constructors. BAR's 11 points takes them past Renault. They fired a blank. Williams increased their lead over McLaren. Fisichella's point for Sauber is the only other change. A lot of rain around here in the paddock before the start, Tony. It made for a very interesting start, and who was on the right tyre absolutely crucial.
You had an old track like Monza, like we had at Spa, and all the excitement. It's a very, very wide pit lane, and it's a very, very wide pit straight here that funnels down to this first chicane. Just look at that. Barrichello getting away. There he was. And look at Alonso shooting through as well. But Michael Schumacher on the right tyres. Just watch what happens here as they slither through. It's very, very damp at the first chicane. Michael Schumacher having to take to the inside across the apron and in front of Juan Pablo Montoya. And they're still slithering around here. You're on the damp part. There is Räikkönen getting in the way. There is Button going on the inside. There is Michael Schumacher spinning, and all sorts going on behind him with Pizzonia going. But watch this, the rocket ship Renault again. Oh my goodness me, how does he get through there? Alonso is incredible. He's nearly up with Barrichello there, but look how damp it is, and he just managed to slither through that first chicane. I know not how.
Jenson Button led this race for quite a while. He ended up on the podium. We can see why BAR and Williams are battling for his services, but do we see why here he really wants to go to Williams?
No, we don't see why, because Frank Williams will be watching this, and it will just increase the tug of war, because Button puts incredible pressure on Juan Pablo Montoya, and they're on the same tyres. They're both on Michelin intermediates, and yet there's the mistake from Montoya, forced into that by Button, and Button gets through cool as you like at this high-speed circuit. And he held the lead, and he put down 2 fastest laps and held the lead through the pit stop. That's why both sides want him.
Talk about pit stops. You have worked extensively in the pits, and one word you don't want to hear when you're down there is fire.
And nor does the driver. But you've got to hold station, you've got to keep cool, your fire extinguisher men have to be on it. This is what happened with Minardi to Gina Maria Bruni, and this could have got even worse, but the fire extinguisher man was right on it. Everybody ran round and did their job. Unfortunately, Jimmy Bruni sucked in some of the flames, some of the smoke, and had to be tended to. Otherwise, they would have sent the car out again. Verstappen, 94. We also got Schumacher got away with it. He had a brief fire in Austria last year, and out he went into the race again.
Absolutely delighted. Jimmy Bruni 100% okay, though. Fernando Alonso is a driver who always goes right on the limit. We saw him at the start. He just pushed things too far, and it was costly.
Well, do you remember Hakkinen here in 99? He was pushing all out on his own, and he went off, and he ended up retiring, spinning off. The pressure was on Fernando Alonso from Michael Schumacher, who was coming through the field, and he was pushing it. He was on the edge. Oh, leave me alone, says Alonso, as he heads towards the Armco barrier. He's about to show what a great footballer he is. There he is. He sticks the boot into the Armco. Very, very upset, but not half as upset as Renault and Flavio Briatore will be with him, having lost those valuable points and second place in the Constructors.
A word from you about Rubens Barrichello, one of the most genial drivers around, so long in Schumacher's shadow. He gets battered over the head with a cricket bat, doesn't he, weekend after weekend, and Rubino having his day in Italy.
He's always fast. He's such a fantastic racing driver, but he's such a great servant of Ferrari as well. I mean, here he's got everything right in qualifying, in the race. He didn't put a wheel wrong, even when you thought it was bad. There you are. Look at that, showing how jubilant he is. It's like his first win when he won in Germany in 2001, and he burst into tears. He deserves that.
And it means so much for Ferrari to win right here at headquarters in Italy.
Absolutely, and they had a big grandstand for all their staff. And Rubens, of course, his grandfather's Italian as well, so he'll have a half Brazilian, half Italian celebration himself.
Tony, thank you very much indeed. We have an exciting next race for you. It is the first ever Chinese Grand Prix. You can catch qualifying 3 o'clock on the Saturday. The race live 6 o'clock on the Sunday morning, the rerun at 2 in the afternoon, and the highlights around midnight. It is an exciting new territory and a brand new audience to appreciate Ferrari, the most successful team in the history of Formula One. Bye-bye.